I love this film. I'm totally
Thank you.
fine. Is it's funny, it's heartbreaking, it's so many great things. And I know you've been working with Kyle and Blake and a lot of those guys for a while now, but this is your feature directorial debut, if I read correctly. So, what about the material really spoke to you to want to make this your debut?
So coming into 2020, I thought my first film was going to be this big action comedy. And just like everyone in the world, the rug was pulled out from under me with COVID. And the experience of COVID, I have a hard time dealing with uncertainty, as is with my anxiety. And 2020 put that into, cranked it up to 11. Everything was uncertain every single moment of every single day. And when I started trying to sort of cope with it, I realized that once I'd let go of the control and accept that I have no control over any of this, I actually started to be present and happy again. And that's when I had sort of the idea to explore that feeling through this absurd device of this otherworldly experience of an alien. And then I went to a dear friend of mine, an extremely talented writer, Alicia Kitri, and pitched to her, and we started talking about it. And then I just so happened to get on a Zoom with Kyle because I was about to direct my first commercial in the pandemic, and I saw that he just did his, and everything was changing. And he's been a friend and a mentor figure for years. So I wanted to get his perspective on how it went. And he told me, and then he's like, "What else are you working on?" And I'm telling him this and that's in development, but also I have this indie I want to get going. And I pitched him the concept, and he was like, "I'm on board. I want to make this." And then from there, it sort of just snowballed. Alicia and I genuinely were writing, thinking of Jillian. Kyle's like, "Let me get it to her." We got it to Jillian. She was in. We asked her, who is there anyone you've been looking to work with? She said Natalie Morales. She was on our list of people we wanted to work with. So we got in touch with her. And then it all just came together in this really organic, beautiful kismet way.
That's amazing. And I've loved Natalie Morales for a while now, and I've loved Jillian Bell going all the way back to Workaholics. But one thing that I love about this film for her in particular is that it really offers her a chance to show off the dramatic chops that she does so well. And I'm curious what that was like for you working, developing that character with her and working to really hit a lot of those emotional beats as much as the more comedic ones that a lot of audiences are used to.
Yeah, Jillian really resonated with the script that Kitri wrote and sort of just the background story that I gave you of where this came from. Jillian has obviously, as all of us, have dealt with her own loss in her life, and she has her own struggles with anxiety and being triggered and how to cope with that. So we really talked about sort of just the emotional journeys that we've all been on dealing with hard times in our lives, and when we're at our worst and when we're at our best, and how we wish we could have done certain things differently and how to be more present. So her and I were Zooming like every single day leading up to the production of this film and having these just really in-depth, personal and vulnerable conversations. And yeah, she really brought it. She's funny in the film, but she grounds the film so hard. And yeah, it's just such an honest portrayal of a woman in mourning. I'm so lucky to have her in the film.
Yeah, it's really, I mean, there were moments where I was bawling, just not expecting it to go that way. And I love Natalie as well in the film. I mean, yeah, she's always been a great performer, but I can't think of anybody better to have brought this alien character to life. And so, obviously, Kitri's script had, I'm sure, a certain characterization for the alien. But what was it like developing that characterization with Natalie as well as with Kitri to be this unique personality?
We really talked about like what is the experience to be the ultimate foreigner fish out of water, you know what I mean, in every sense of the way, from a whole nother planet, a whole nother galaxy, and what that sort of experience would be like, picking up on human social cues and emotional cues, especially when at the time of arrival you are pretty sure you're immune and can't experience those things. You're here to study them, but you don't understand them. There's a little bit of a childlike discovery to her where she has all this information and she is hyper intelligent, but she's also learning things and reacting for the first time, almost like with a child. And, we talked about really tracking Jennifer, the extraterrestrial's emotional journey. We thought, and I'm so glad to hear it resonated with you, because our thought was this character could easily just be a gimmick and a device. But if we can actually track her emotional arc and watch her experience mourning and grief and what it is to feel through Jillian's character, and we give her a full arc as well, I feel like we win. And yeah, I mean, Natalie, again, I feel very lucky to have the two actresses that I have in this film because they brought so much on screen and off screen. You know, myself, Keetri, Kyle, Jillian, and Natalie, we talked about the script so much. And then on the day as well, you know, Alicia was on set and we would talk every morning, lunch, and dinner about what we learned from the performances. And we would sort of adapt and rewrite and mold. So yeah, I hope that answers it.
It's perfect. I'm glad that you had that amazing creative collaboration, which often comes from independent films, but it's still always a joy to hear. Now, the thing I love about the alien as well is that we learn a lot about it throughout the film in terms of its backstory, but at the same time, I feel like there's just enough kept from the audience, and I'm curious what that was like for you and Alicia figuring that out. Figuring out how much to share about this extraterrestrial, given that the story is very much about the grief and mourning.
Early on in the development process, when Kyle came on board, and it was myself, Alicia, and Kyle talking every single day and working out the treatment, we talked about that exact stuff. How much do we want to tell and how much do we not want to tell, and what's important? Some things emotionally, obviously, like our planet, we don't experience emotions. That's why we think we're so much farther technologically. And then also just logistically, how does an alien survive on our planet? From drinking the oil to having to recharge and sleeping in a pod. Yeah, it was a balancing act of making it just enough, but not over explaining it, getting lost in the weeds. Like we did an exercise where we wrote a whole giant backstory of like what planet she's from, how old she is, what like the history of her species. And we sort of did that for ourselves and then really whittled it down to just what we needed to tell to, accomplish our story and really make it about that particular extraterrestrial more than her full species.
And I think that's perfect, because you don't want to get audiences bogged down too much in the details and take away from the emotional nature of the story. What was one of your favorite things then, to come favorite bits of backstory to come up with for the extraterrestrial?
I mean, I love the olive oil because that started as a small seed of like what lubricates your skin and would protect you from the sun. But as we started talking about it more, we were talking about, oil and water and the separation of these two characters when they first meet and then their bond coming together. So that was something really fun to talk about. Also, just Alicia's great bit about lightning storms, how their planet is surrounded by lightning storms, so they absorb energy. That was just a fun thing to explore, both with fire and the electric cars and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing how that one little bit turned into a whole like ongoing plot thread.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like once you plant that in there, then you got to commit to that. And it's like the whole movie we thought about like, well, now, okay, she has the phone, she's in the car, like where are things around her?
So what was it then like developing the look for this film? Because I mean it has this just wonderfully warm, natural look to it. But what was it like for you developing that look?
I worked very closely with Wojtek Kilar, a cinematographer I've worked with for years now. We've come up making music videos, commercials, and then eventually television together. This was also his first feature. So we really, on a logistical side, pulled from a lot of the tricks we've accumulated over the years of storytelling in short form and music videos. And then we just thought about the softness of the story and having this absurd device, but really wanting to ground it. So we wanted the visuals to feel a sense of groundedness. And then, Kyle, being an amazing director himself and producer and mentor, really challenged us visually to think about spatially how we were going to use this one location and make it interesting. And also having two people in one location and thinking about them spatially and how to reflect their relationship in a visual sense. So it was, it was a hodgepodge of past experiences, knowing how we wanted the film to feel grounded, but also have this little ting of genre as well, because we are playing in this sci-fi drama. I think that answers it.
Yes, that's perfect. And since you mentioned the one location, one of my favorite sequences is the montage near the beginning of Jillian walking through the house and just doing random things. And I'm curious, was that all, an improvised idea of having her just interact with the set and follow with a camera, or was a lot of that written and pre-planned?
It was written and pre-planned, and then she just sprinkled on these amazing accoutrements. Like when she puts down all of her makeup, she's organizing everything. She's like, what am I doing? That was her on the day. Like, what am I doing? Because what we wanted to accomplish with her walking through and adjusting things and making it perfect is this house was meant for this celebration. It represents this thing that was supposed to be, and now it's not. And she's in this place all alone, and she's trying to grappling with her loss of control. Her whole life is, unwinding in front of her what she thought her future was going to be. So she's trying to control any little thing she can, from adjusting the poster to making sure her makeup's done right, to making sure the whole plate, or, even hanging her clothing, where it's like, she has this giant walk-in closet. It really doesn't matter, but she's just trying to have sort of any sense of control.
I love that. It works very well to introduce us to her character and then see her kind of let go as it goes on. I'm curious then, what would you say was one of your biggest creative challenges coming into this project, especially given this was your debut?
Just, the global pandemic and the having to accomplish this in 10 days. It was a lot. So we really worked backwards, in the sense of knowing we have these two incredible actors for 10 days. We have to shoot this in 10 days. There's also a pandemic. How do we work out those logistics? Luckily, leading up to that, I did a bunch of music video and commercial work in the pandemic, and I started to learn, obviously our incredible producer, Jonas Dolkart, handled all of this and did it masterfully, because he and I have done music videos and commercials for years, but learning about the testing and what we can and can't do and how to keep everyone safe. But also, again, from these music videos, is like, we really were, I've always tried to make them basically short films dressed as music videos. And basically in a day, I'm trying to get all that accomplished. So this was that, just, times a billion. That same sort of ethos of like, how do we tell this full story in 10 days? So maybe instead of this scene taking place here, there, and over there, maybe it takes place over here. And then you spend more time, in this other scene where it's, they're out on the road, or it's the music video montage. Like, maybe just thinking about it like a puzzle, but approaching it from the beginning with Kitri's script, like always making sure that what was scripted and the point and the context of the scene was never shifted.
Well,
I'm out of
I
focus.
think it all comes
Sorry.
together. Yeah, you're good. Yeah, it fell out there for 30 seconds, but it's fine.
Okay, cool.
It all comes together. It all comes together brilliantly. The film. That is all the questions I really had for now. Hopefully, get to chat with you again another time for it. Thank you, Brandon, so much for taking the time to chat. I greatly appreciate it. I really cannot wait to spread the word about this film.